And we're live. How's it going, everybody? It's your boy Wardy, and we're back at it with the latest edition of all the latest news and rumors in Mets land as a plethora of topics are upon us that we have to get into tonight on this amazing Friday night. So much is going on in not only Mets land, but baseball land. The stove is finally starting to heat up a little bit now that we have the tender deadline. Who is tendered? Who is non-tendered by the Mets? How right or wrong was I? We have a lot to get into. Who are the Mets currently showing trade interest in? Who could they be pursuing in the ensuing days, either in the free agent or trade market? Who are the Mets bringing back for their hitting coach? So much to get into is what we're about to break down. My apologies for being late per usual, but seriously, thank you everyone for chiming in live or on replay. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button if you guys are pumped up to get into tonight's show the way that I'm really excited to break it all down for you and answer all your comments, questions, and concerns. So much is going on in Mets land. It feels so good to be doing these live shows, and especially when we have news to get into as we're basically going live right away. So really pumped up. Also, guys, my mic is like a robot echo. Yeah, I don't know why. I've been having some mic issues lately, guys, so bear with me. Let me know if it sounds any better or worse. I'm going to do my best to try to troubleshoot this the best I can. So let me know, how do I sound right at the moment? Is it too echoey? Is it better? Is it worse? Let me know in the live chat, everybody. And for people on replay, apologies for the inconvenience. This will only take a minute. Wardy is getting to make up for the cameras. He must look pretty. There you go. Sean, thank you so much for becoming a franchise member. It really does mean a lot. Hype in the chat to my man Sean. He's been a long time supporter. I recognize you right away, brother. Really, really appreciate the membership. Is it still really bad? Is it a bad echo? Is it a bearable echo? Let me know how you guys are hearing me, and I can kind of operate as follows, because we have a lot to get into, and I want to make sure that I sound at least decent for you guys. I sound fine? Okay. If there is a slight echo, I do apologize, guys. Again, it's one of those things that I think is going to be on and off. I've been troubleshooting. I don't know what's been going on. This is not a cheap mic, and granted, I'm no mic connoisseur. I don't really know if there are certain things that there's a simple fix to, so I troubleshoot a lot. So my apologies again if I don't sound perfect. But again, if it's bearable, then that's all that matters. Says Faja. Hello, Wardy. It's been a few. Hopefully you remember me. I'm one of your day ones. Of course I remember you, Dre. How can I not, my man? Happy to have you in here. But guys, gals, we got a lot to talk about. Brandon Woodruff, a Cy Young caliber pitcher who has a cooked shoulder, is going to be out with injury for the next year, was just non-tendered by the Milwaukee Brewers, guys. I know that we have a lot of Mets stuff to get into, but this is Mets related, as I fully intend on discussing Woodruff further as soon as tomorrow, as a matter of fact. The Brewers couldn't land a trade for a guy that, should he return and be at least close to what he was prior, is one of the better starters in all of baseball. I'm baffled, truly baffled, that Milwaukee managed to let this man walk, but Milwaukee Brewers and Wine actually have patience when it comes to guys. If they have to pay them and if they're not going to play for a while, forget it. They're simply not going to do that. David Stearns knows a lot about Woodruff. I'm going to expand on that here in the live show and tomorrow as well. But just ridiculous. Brandon Woodruff gets dropped. The Braves are trading Soroka. They're trading Wright. They're looking like a team that wants to add big time this offseason, which of course doesn't have me happy as a Mets fan, but is a reality for a Braves team that wants to right the ship with their rotation and is planning to make a splash like maybe never before, that we're going to get into. The Mets, how are they trying to address their rotation? We're going to be getting into plenty of that as well, but the big news tonight are the tenders, the non-tenders, who's staying, who's leaving. Let's break it all down. Edwin with the captain membership. Love you, brother. Thank you so much for that. Edwin's an OG as well. I recognize you not only here, but also on Twitter, so hope you're doing well, my man. Yoshima, Jacob, Matthew, Ricky, Jamil, Sean, Jacob, Malone, Dave, my man, Smitty, all you guys, everyone and their mother. Thank you all so much for chiming in for all the latest in Mets land. And again, I hope that my volume here is at least bearable for you guys. But without further ado, let's talk shop. Let's talk Mets baseball, because the New York Metropolitans have non-tendered, meaning that they have parted ways with the following 5 players. Sam Coonrod, relief pitcher who was out for the majority of the season with injury. Trevor Gott, who the Mets acquired, really just $8 million in order to acquire him, along with Chris Flexen back, right around trade deadline last year. So Gott is no longer going to be with the Mets as a reliever. Luis Guillorme, a fan favorite, the infield wizard that he is, had anything but an infield wizard type season this past year. Wasn't only a negative offensive player, but it was a pretty negative defensive player. And Guillorme, who really doesn't have a true role on this Mets team for what they need. They do not need a guy that, while he's great as a utility guy, is nothing more than a slap hitter. That is not the type of direction the Mets really need to be going in right now. Because of that reason, Luis has been parted with. Love Guillorme, wish him all the best, and I know my brother's probably a little annoyed right now because he is one of those few fans that does have a Luis Guillorme jersey. And then we have Jeff Brigham, a reliever who had some nice moments for the Mets last year with a nasty sweeping slider, but also struggled with his control, gave up a couple bombs. Also was suspended, if I'm not mistaken, 10 games in the minor leagues when sent down this year for sticky substance, as was the case with many Mets. It felt like both at major league level, but mostly minor league level. Major league was, of course, Max Scherzer, who is no longer a Met. And the big one is Daniel Vogelbach, Hoagie Vogie, Danny effing Burgers is no longer a Danny effing Met. He's not Vogelbach, he's Vogel gone, as Danny's time in Queens has come to an end after an underwhelming 2023 campaign, to put it lightly, to the point of having the New York Post come out and say, yeah, Buck Showalter and Billy Epler did not see eye to eye on playing Vogie. Billy advocating for him to try to save face in the trade he did. That was a failure as soon as it pretty much began. And for Buck, being fed up with having a guy that simply can't hit for power in the DH position, takes more pitches than, I mean, literally an average Joe. I will not forget. It feels like yesterday. Throughout the summer, I posted a video on Twitter this year of me standing in the batter's box, just not swinging, not taking the bat off my shoulders. If that's going to get me millions of dollars, then by all means, Mets, sign me already. And this is not an ill will of Vogelbach. Seriously, I loved him when he first came here. There were so many fun things about him. As, of course, a lot of fans love the fact that this guy was productive at the size that he is. That's not an easy thing to do, and we certainly fell in love with him for those reasons. Has a bubbly personality, truly seems like a great human being. I wish him all the best, so I'm not going to sit here and rag on him all day long, but the writing's been on the wall. Vogelbach had a really, really unfortunate season, was so insecure at the plate, was afraid to take swings when he needed to, taking more strikes down the plate than it felt like truly anyone in baseball at times. And now, again, a guy that's north of 300 pounds at the DH position that lacks power, that gets on base, not even nearly at the clip that he's accustomed to. Like, what are we doing here? A guy that is without a position and is a guy that is without a role on the New York Metropolitan. So Daniel Vogelbach, as a surprise absolutely nobody, has been parted with, and I want to know your reactions in the live chat and the comments on replay for everybody. How are you feeling about the news that the Mets have parted ways with these 5 players? Are you upset about any of them? Are you happy about any of them? Again, I wish them all well wherever they may land, especially when looking at Vogelbach and Guillorme. Luis is an absolute beauty, but the reality is that the Mets have major changes now, and now on a 40-man roster, the Mets only have 28 roster spots currently active, which is huge. What does that mean? The Mets have a shit ton of moves to make. Pardon my French. They have so much to do. The rotation, the bullpen needs a complete overhaul. They need to add offense in the outfield. They need to add defense as well. They need to add power with the DH position should they not stick with internal options. A lot of moves the Mets need to do, and they're not going to have too much time to do it. So it's going to be a whirlwind of an offseason, to say the least, but we're going to be covering it all to a T on WardyNYM, just as we always do. But man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, all I can say is I'm not surprised by any of this, really, and I am 2 for 3 in my non-tender predictions. And this is someone who, for my 5 Mets who will not return video, already got 2 out of those 3 right. So at best, I can go 4 out of 5 in that video. I think I'm going to end up going 3 out of 5 because I can understand how Omar Narvaez trading his contract might not be the easiest thing. It might not be necessarily something the Mets are going to prioritize to do, but I need to throw him in there for the sake of having it be a top 5 video as well, and there was some justification behind that. So I'm already content with the idea of hopefully going 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 for those picks, which is similar to how I did back in the after the 2021 season. So not going to be as good as 2022 because those were all free agents, but I mean, hey, DJ was a coin flip if he would be staying or leaving, and the Mets decided to commit to DJ Stewart, and I'm really proud of him. I'm really pumped up for the guy. He was such an awesome story this year. I just didn't know if the Mets want to commit to a guy that doesn't really have great defensive ability in the corner. Certainly better than some other options out there, but not great for the most part. We know that this guy profiles best more so as a DH than anything else, but the power ability, 11 home runs in that small sample size with the Mets, did him well and earned him $1.38 million for the 2024 season. The other 4 tender contracts the Mets received were Pete Alonso, Joey Lucchesi, David Peterson, and there is one more that I'm currently blanking on. I do believe Alonso landed right around 22 million or so, or at least we have yet to find out. I'm not sure on those details. Joey Lucchesi, Drew Smith has been tendered, but we're going to get into Drew Smith shortly because while the Mets did tender Drew Smith, they don't love Drew Smith. And this is a guy that could easily be dealt this offseason, and we're going to get into why exactly that is, even though if you've been watching the Mets at all over the past calendar year or two even, then you know that Drew Smith, when not talking and not trying to hit on a supermodel that arrives at Citi Field, once a year, when he's not talking to them before that conversation happens, he's an absolute stud. But what have we learned? Drew Smith, under the bright lights, under the pressure of trying to make a move, trying to shoot his shot, with a chick that's a supermodel back-to-back years has been the downfall of his Mets tenure. He has had horrendous numbers, and I'm going to get into exactly those numbers with you all right now, because shout out to a fan for going out of their way to break this down for me regarding Drew Smith. I got to just read off these numbers to you guys right now regarding Drew, because this is hilarious. Okay, Drew Smith in 2022, before flirting with Sports Illustrated swimsuit models, 1.53 ERA. After flirting with them, a 4.45 ERA. Let's fast forward to 2023. Drew Smith, flirting with another supermodel, 1.88 ERA. I'm pretty sure it was a Victoria's Secret supermodel, if I'm not mistaken. Post flirting, 4.93. The man cannot handle any type of pressure, any type of anything that could lose his focus, I guess, right? From focusing on pitching. You know, I get it. We all love the ladies out there, but you know, it's getting too much involved with his game. And I think we've all realized that. It's funny. It's a funny thing, but Drew Smith, I know Mets fans have some colorful opinions on, and you know, he's a guy that I could easily see dealt this offseason, as the Mets did pretty much all they could to try to trade him prior to tonight's tender deadline. So again, I want to continue to see your reactions in the live chat, everybody. I'm actually going to pull up a poll right now. I want to know how you guys are feeling post moves. If you're first chiming in, make sure to smash that like and subscribe on. Help us get to 200 likes for an extra short-term goal, and please help us get to 25K subscribers for an extra short-term goal. It's greatly appreciated. If you enjoy consistent Mets coverage on all things Mets all offseason long, then you know this is the place to be. Camper, thank you so much for the captain membership too, in case I didn't shout you out already. Greatly appreciate all you new members here. Appreciate all the new subscribers, and again, reoccurring, you guys are absolute beauties. But I do want to put up a poll in here for you guys. Let's see. Okay, let's get that in there. How you doing, all you beautiful people? Is my mic not working? No, it's a little weirder. Okay, apologies, guys. Again, if I'm having mic issues, I'm going to just continue to troubleshoot this as we go. Let's see. Put it up. Let's see. Do you guys want me to put the volume up? Let me know in the chat what you guys want me to do. Hold on. Okay, guys, I just put up the volume a little bit more. I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if that's a bad thing. Let me know in the live chat. Again, greatly appreciate everyone's help here as we're trying to work on this together. And, you know, shame on me as well. It wasn't like I was streaming or working on a video earlier today, so I didn't really get a chance to get the mic figured out in case there were any issues. So my apologies, everybody. Let me know how I'm sounding, guys. But as you're first chiming in, the latest news, Mets have tendered the following players: David Pearson, Joey Lucchesi, Pete Alonso, Drew Smith, and DJ Stewart. They have non-tendered, meaning they have parted ways with Danny Vogelbach, Luis Guillorme, Jeff Brigham, Sam Coonrod, and Trevor Gott. It's just a little echoey. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Robo, it's weird. I don't know. Frank the Tank is losing his mind. Who gives a flying fuck? Pardon my French. I'm sorry, but like, the day we start caring about Frank the Tank's opinions is the day that we should stop being a Mets fan. I'm sorry. Like, stop it, please. Every now and then, Frank is rational, but those are few and far in between. Few and far in between. That's what I will say. It was a little weird yesterday. I know. It's been a little spotty, so I apologize. Someone said passing. I don't think that we're going to have a passing bomb or anything close to right now, but I'll double check just to make sure. And yes, the craziest news today isn't even in Mets land. It isn't even in Mets land. It's with the Milwaukee Brewers having the audacity to non-tender such a talented player just because the guy has to rehab for a bit. Now, I understand they know their medical. They understand it more than any situation. So maybe Brandon Woodruff's shoulder really is at a point where it's not going to be nearly what it used to be. There is, of course, going to be that risk factor. But, oh, my goodness, the potential is just so far greater than the risk here until we find out further reports that say, oh, you know, the guy's shoulder is completely cooked. He's got to retire, which is not going to be the case, obviously, with Brandon, I'd imagine. That just truly baffles me. And, you know, thankfully the Mets have a president of baseball operations that knows a thing or two about that star pitcher over the past number of years, really throughout his entire career. You know, we'll get into that more shortly. New movie Robo Wardy. That's funny. Did I sound like a robot to you guys? Everything sounds good? All right, cool. Nothing new from Passan. The latest thing from Passan was the Braves trading Kyle Wright, which is crazy. The Braves trade away two rotation pieces for them. Soroka being that question mark, but Wright a certainty. And they're 100% going all in on starting pitching this offseason. So us Mets, we just need to do our best to make sure they don't land Yamamoto. Yamamoto, he's got to come here, or at least not be in the division if he's not going to land here, right? And I know the Mets are all in on him, and I'm excited to get into more of that discussion. But man, oh man, shoulder injuries are really bad. Probably won't be the same again. Yep, there's always that risk, Vito, and it's 100% certain that something that shouldn't just be brushed aside, to say the least. But we will still have those discussions because, again, the potential there is just far too great. It really seems far too great. Knowing that you're not even trading for him, slightly robotic but still good. Okay, we're just gonna have to chug along. We got roughly 500 viewers in here. Thank you all so much for being here. Don't you dare talk to the king that way. Who are we referring to, Big Country? Enlighten me. I don't know if you're talking about someone that I was discussing or someone in the chat that's talking, but we see the DJ Stewart sign. We also, I do want to get into briefly with you guys, Eric Chavez. Talk about his surprise today. I've been saying it for a while. I felt like the writing was on the wall. Eric Chavez, why would he return to the Mets as bench coach after the Mets have made it abundantly clear they're going to hire a new bench coach? And he's interviewed for multiple managerial jobs. He's made it clear that he would like to be a manager in baseball sooner than later, which is why I don't foresee him having a long tenure with the Mets. But Eric Chavez, after striking out his interview with the San Diego Padres as manager, is coming back to the Mets, not as bench coach, but as co-heading coach with Mr. Jeremy Barnes. Why do I love this? This is the same tandem the Mets had in 2022, when, albeit, of course, they struggled down the stretch, but they had a great amount of success. And while that offense, not known for his power, but known for its contact hitting, because of given the construction of the roster, more so than the actual type of formula they had, now we're going to hopefully see more success on that end for next season. I really like Eric Chavez. I've always been a fan of his. Not only one, a truly phenomenal and really phenomenal defensively minded glove there at third in the hot corner for the A's for so long, in which those A's are not going to be the Las Vegas A's, which doesn't come as a shock to anybody, but just an unfortunate reality for the loyal fans left there in Oakland. I mean, talk about treating a fan base wrong. I mean, Oakland Fisher, they know how to do a fantastic job at just spitting in the face of their fans over the years, and that's why they deserve nothing but the worst coming their way. And I wish all the best for Vegas as a team, but for Fisher, I mean, until that schmuck is out of there, it's hard for me to wish success that way. It really is, because those fans deserve so much better, and it's nothing short of complete nonsense and BS that they have been written off the way that they have. Over what? Because you're a cheap schmuck and won't spend, even though that you're a multimillionaire, even though that you're a billionaire. Like, it just miss me with that nonsense. Seriously. Mr. Podcast Worry, finally back in the States, so I'll catch all of your videos. Also, we miss Guillorme, absolute wizard on defense. Mike, happy to have you in here, and thank you so much for chiming in, my friend. Also, I know it's a little bit now, but happy Blade Veterans Day. For those that don't know, Mike does a phenomenal job serving, and he's always chiming in, always sharing input on his Mets fandom, and is always a phenomenal supporter. So thank you so much for the donation, Mike. Happy to have you in here, my friend. God bless. Hope you're doing fantastic wherever you are. Let's see. DJ Stewart, good move. Hope he can build last year. $2 haul from Edwin. I agree. I'm interested to see how the Mets are going to go about DJ, because keep in mind, the Mets have DJ Stewart now when he only has one minor league option left, if memory serves me correct. So, the Mets still have a situation where they can minor him one more time, but that's it. So DJ is going to be competing for a roster spot next season. And of course, there's no guarantee if he'll stay with the team. He could be parted with prior to the season beginning. But for right now, it's still a nice feel-good story. I'm interested to see what the future holds for DJ Stewart. As of now, it's still going to be with the Mets. Is it Christmas already is what some people are saying in here. You guys are cracking me up. Seriously, you guys are really cracking me up. My goodness, my God, my gracious. And echo, or is that just me? Yes, if you're hearing an echo, that is definitely an issue on my end, so I certainly apologize. Like I said, guys, this is something I'm trying to troubleshoot. For tomorrow's video, I may even have to just use my second mic. I have multiple mics. This is the OG. This is the Shure SM7B, which is not a cheap mic whatsoever. It was working great. I brought it down when I was staying out of town for a little bit. I brought it back, and it has been operating the same. So odd stuff that I'm sure can be rectified if, I just figure out what exactly is going on here. My question to everybody watching now, out of the over 500 live viewers, out of the thousands of people that will surely be watching on replay, my question to you is, does any of the news as transpired for the tender deadline, both Mets or not, have caught you by surprise? Because Mets related, I think the only thing that may have slightly caught me surprised in this news was DJ Stewart, because that was really a wild card if the Mets will bring him back or not. Chet Brigham slightly, Trevor Gott slightly, because the Mets need as much bullpen help as they can get. So the fact that they're just like, nah, we're not bringing you back is kind of telling on where they stand. But not only that, also, it's the one I just discussed plenty. It's Brandon Woodruff. It's also, again, the Braves are shedding a lot of salary right now between Soroka, Schuster, and all those other pieces yesterday in the White Sox deal for Aaron Bummer, which was a big one, a 5-piece for one. Bummer, again, a high upside reliever who just had a brutal year with the White Sox, but underlying numbers are nice, and he has a solid velo as a southpaw in that pen. I'm sure the Braves will fix him. And, for the Braves here, after parting with him, they trade Nick Anderson as well to the Royals. If I'm not mistaken, they also trade Kyle Wright to the Royals. They're freeing up as much spots and space as they can to make big splashes this offseason. But the beauty of this situation is that the Braves aren't alone. The Mets are too. The Mets are 1,000% in on this. And the fact that you can look at the Mets 40-man right now, the 40-man, and they're at 28. Signings are coming. Trades are coming. It's just a matter of what exactly are these things going to be. Mike got better out of nowhere. Make it make sense. Sure, get your shit together, bro. I know I didn't spend hundreds of dollars on you just for you to give me a hard time right now. It's very not nice. Audio went normal. Okay, whatever. Well, echoes back. Unbelievable. Whatever. I gotta ignore the audio from now on. That can't be the topic of discussion here. They trade Kyle Wright. Exactly. Yes, they trade Kyle Wright. Like what? Crazy. Talking about a potential trade with the Mets. By a raise of hands, how many of you want Manuel Margot in a trade? Huh? I'll give you a couple minutes. Feel free. I'll give you a couple minutes. No? I'm not seeing hands? No. So you're telling me you don't want, and went back robotic? Okay. So you're telling me you don't want a contact hitting outfielder that is versatile, that doesn't get on base at a phenomenal clip, that struggles down the field? You're telling me you don't want that as your fourth outfielder type, as your platoon type? You don't want that. I can't see why. I don't know. Look, if the Mets just get the guy as a fourth outfielder, it's not going to be in the world. And of course, if you don't know anything about Manuel Margot, then do yourself a favor and check out the video we did on him yesterday, as the Mets, Yankees, among a couple other clubs are showing interest in him and have for the past week plus. And the Mets have had substantial trade talks reportedly for Manuel Margot. My question is, if you're trading for Margot, make sure you get Tyler Glasnow's ass over here too, okay? We're in more desperate need for strong starting pitching in this rotation than we are a fourth outfielder making $10 million for next year. You're not going to be paying that man money unless A, he's going to be getting consistent playing time, or B, you're taking that on knowing that there's more coming with it. And Glasnow, the worst kept secret in baseball, who will be dealt this offseason, is a name that the Mets can certainly use in this rotation. So that in itself would make plenty of sense. Would make more sense, I should say. But now, I don't know where things stand on the Margot front. That's something that we will continue to follow on with. And there's one thing that I could say to play devil's advocate for Manuel Margot. It's a couple things. It's a couple points. Let's get into them together, folks. All right? Read them with me. It is one, Manuel Margot is versatile in the outfield, is defensively competent, and can handle that platoon role perfectly fine. That is certainly a plus to him. Two, since the start of the 2021 season, he has been around a 300 hitter against left-handed pitching. What have the Mets sucked donkey you-know-what with? Left-hand pitching. I mean, every left-hand starter, you might as well just throw Randy Johnson's name on their back because that's how they're pitching against this Mets team. They could literally be the worst thing. Just call it up, nervous jitter first, start walking everyone on their mother. The Mets would somehow ground into a triple play. It just to end the inning. That is the Mets' way. We've seen in recent years with their struggles, not against just southpaws in general, but we've seen mainly starters as well. Especially if they get deeper in the game, they've had their struggles with. It just has been a frustration, to say the least. So Margot does have that going for him. But aside from that, if you're not going to acquire a bigger piece along with him, like a Glasnow, it's hard to not say that the Mets have better options in the free agent market and potentially still in the trade market for, again, a fourth outfielder platoon type, which is a role that Mark Cannon had, Tommy Pham had, guys to name a few in recent years in the outfield that aren't necessarily playing every day, but are out there and are productive when they are. But what are two things that both Tommy Pham and Mark Cannon have that Margot doesn't? It's power to a degree. They're not the craziest power hitters, but they're at least going to give you around 15 bombs a year. Margot can't slap more than just a couple. You can count on your hand the amount of home runs Margot's likely going to hit in a season. And while that might not be a big deal for a platoon guy, it is something to make note of when this team lacks power. Power wins championships. Power wins regular season games. And the Mets desperately need it. Yes, they need defensive upside as well. But again, I think the point I'm trying to make is I see a lot of the pros and cons to acquiring someone like him. And unlike years past where, I've heard, Wardy's such a homer. He's glazing. He loves this guy. He's going to be talking. He's going to be hyping up every move the Mets do. Nah, I've learned. Of course, young, immature fan, you learn. You make mistakes. Shame on me for thinking Kevin Pillar would be a bigger acquisition than what he was in 2021. Shame on me for thinking that, Max Scherzer would have been more productive than what he was. We learn from these things. So I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to sit here and act like I love every acquisition because I don't. And if the Mets just go and acquire Margot, even if it's not for much, aside from the fact that he will be in that platoon role and there's versatility, they best be sure that they're acquiring more outfield help, higher quality outfield help. Because if they don't, I will be the first to tell David Stearns, what in God's name are you doing? What in God's name are you doing, right? So that's where I stand right now on the Margot front, for sure. Mike sounds weird. I get that. Everyone bear with me. I'm going to try to troubleshoot the mic for a second, okay? We're going to try to troubleshoot it. Just give me a second. Okay. Is the mic better, worse, indifferent? Let me know. Let me know in the live chat, everybody. I sound futuristic? Damn. So annoying. Should I put it all the way up here? Let me know, guys. Does this sound better, worse? Son of a gun. Because usually I used to have the mic just like this. But I noticed when I started doing this a couple months ago, popping was coming out of the mic that I'm not sure of. So let me know, guys. Is this okay? Is this too much? Is this better if this were auto-tune Wardy? Do I really sound robotic right now? That's freaking ridiculous. Worse? Okay. Fantastic. Same? Same? Okay. Hold on. Check. Okay. Sorry, guys. I wouldn't care, but it's the fact that everyone keeps talking about the mic, so I feel like I need to try to troubleshoot it. Sounds like reverb. Yeah, David. No, you're right. I've noticed that with it recently. Can you say future like Squidward? Shut up, Slants. Say, look, I am your father, Luke. That's funny. Let's see. Sounds good to me. Okay. All right. We're gonna just see. I'm gonna try not to be too loud. That could be part of the issue too. Matt's still paying Bobby Bonilla. Just saying. Thank you for the $2 holla. I appreciate that. Yeah, same thing. Rory sounds like Tom Hanks, Rhodey, and Wayne's World. Oh my god. Sounds good. That's okay. All right, guys. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect. You just need to be able to tolerate me. Nothing wrong. Okay, we're just rolling, guys. We're rolling with it. We're rolling. Of course, I'm watching NBA. The Knicks are on. They're up 5 with 9 left. Come on. Okay, let's see where we're on the poll, guys. See where we're on the poll right now. Again, appreciate everyone for chiming in. Apologies again for the audio. I already know we're gonna get in the comments on replay. This guy said audio like 100 times in the video. Yeah, I understand. My apologies. Let's see. Okay, so out of roughly 250 votes so far, 15 minutes in, Mets non-tender 5 players. What is your thoughts? 67% of you guys love it. 31% of you guys say, I'm okay with it. We'll miss some. 2% say hate it, bring them back. Almost certain that the fans that voted that are trolling A, and 2 aren't even Mets fans. So those going ahead. Where do you go get water? I got water. Don't you worry, brother. Kevin, great memory. How you doing, everybody? How you doing? But guys, let me double check to make sure I'm not missing any new news online right now on Twitter, because a lot of stuff happened. A lot of stuff happened today with these non-tenders, and I'm really excited too. There were 63 players non-tendered in total across MLB. You want to know what's a funny non-tender today that I'd like to share with you guys briefly? Rowdy Tellez, the big unit that he is, the Daniel Vogelbach replacement from one unit to another in Milwaukee that David Stearns himself made that decision to do, was also non-tender today. Because someone commented and said, how funny would it be if Vogie went to Milwaukee and Tellez came here? I'm like, the funny thing is that Stearns literally acquired Vogie, parted with him, acquired Tellez, and now Tellez was parted with. So I think we're good. We don't need any units anymore. I skipped the dono or a memory. Let me find them, brother. My apologies. Not purposeful. Oh, there we go. Thank you. A memory with the $5 says, what would a Woodruff deal even look like? Would a Hicks deal be in question? Maybe even a Hader deal with what our bullpen looks like at the moment? I don't foresee Hader at all. I think Hader's destined to go to the Texas Rangers. Just makes too much sense for him. No state tax there. And he's going to a World Series champ. You know, it makes a lot of sense. Jordan Hicks, you know, there's certainly some appeal there, but there's risk factor as well with his command of the zone. Woodruff, though, I don't know what a Woodruff deal would look like as a free agent signing because no one knew. No one thought that this was going to happen. But what I could see with a Woodruff deal would, of course, be a multi-year deal. I would say a 2-year deal with a third-year option. And that third-year option could either be a mutual option. It could be a player option if that's what's going to take to sway him. I mean, the most ideal world would be a 2-year deal with a third-year club option so that when we see him pitch, most likely, you know, him in true form again would be 2025. See what you have there. If he plays great, awesome. Then you opt into that contract for the 2026 season. If he doesn't perform well, then you part ways with him. So I could see that type of deal certainly happening. But Woodruff now has to figure it out because, you know, who expected him to be on the free agent market like this? And guys, we're getting so close to 200 likes. Thank you all so much by continuing to smash that like and subscribe buttons. Greatly appreciate it as we're going all over all the latest at Metsland. Highlighted by the breaking news that, yes, the Mets have parted ways with Daniel Vogelbach, Guillorme, Jeff Brigham, Sam Coonrod, and now Trevor Gott. Appreciate that donation again. Thank you. Edwin with the $2 says, think we have a chance on the Reds India? No, because the Mets don't have a need for Jonathan India. That's the simple reason. Jonathan India, who is still a solid player, you know, definitely peaked a little early on. He had a phenomenal rookie year. I will not forget, you know, he grew up a diehard Mets fan. He played great. He's played great against the Mets, especially at Citi Field growing up, going to Mets games. But his father, and he said it himself in a recent interview over the past year, his father is such a diehard Mets fan that unless things have changed since then, he still watches every single Mets game live and usually watches his son Jonathan's games recorded on the DVR after the fact. If that isn't a true Mets fan, I don't know what is. So, of course, for the fandom, there's an appeal with India, but the reality is there isn't really a fit for him on this team currently. That would have changed if, say, McNeil wasn't here, but the Mets aren't going to part ways with Jeff to do something like that. So, yeah, I do not foresee a world where the Mets land him currently at this time. Let's see here. To-doom-doom. Luis Robert, that is all. Stay tuned. Luis Robert is a guy that I think we're going to be talking about a lot very soon. A lot. You know, we talked quite a bit about these free agent targets, and we have so much more to get into, but what's the one thing that we haven't really dabbled into much until yesterday when the Mets were reportedly connected to a guy? That's trade topics. So trade discussion is the next big one on the channel. Of course, we got your trade target video coming your way real soon. Of course, I want Luis Robert because he's one of the best and most talented outfielders in the game, and he is a key factor as to why I've been even watching White Sox games in recent years. Yeah, Chicago's got a lot of nice pieces. They're in complete turmoil. They want to make moves. They're going to make moves. These guys will not be cheap, but my goodness, my God, my gracious, the potential with them, if should you land them, is through the effing roof. Yeah, sign me up with a Luis Robert. It shouldn't take a rocket scientist to be in favor of someone like him, right? The big thing for him, though, is, you know, having the right attitude. And I don't really think I have any concerns with Robert not hustling down first base because, shit, I would have a bad attitude too. I'd be cocky if I was the best guy on my team and my clubhouse, I can dictate whatever I want to do. My coaching staff doesn't give a damn. The respective players don't really care. And that has been the case in Chicago. It's been that bad. Lance Lynn said it himself this season. That's like way too laid back. It's way too chill. Like they're getting away with way too much there in Southside. Robert, one of those examples, but all he needs is the right manager, the right clubhouse, To just, make sure he's putting in that extra effort every play. That's really the only thing we've noticed with Robert. Hasn't even been like an attitude issue. It's just been more so of a lack of interest at times. Kind of doing his best Manny Machado impression when Manny doesn't feel like legging down first base after every other ground ball he does. So, just some examples there. Robert is a 5-2 player. He's a phenomenal player, truly an electric player. At his best, he's a top player in baseball. Not the best, of course, but he's really, really good. Really, really good, and certainly a guy that I would love to have on this Mets team. Two former Mets that got non-tendered, Penn Murphy and Thomas Szapucki. So Penn Murphy, who was just acquired by the Atlanta Braves this week, is already not an Atlanta Brave. So Penn Murphy, who's been trying to land on teams when he's not going to be pitching for the next calendar year or so because of his injury, teams are continuing to show a lack of willingness to actually pick him up because they don't want to commit a roster spot for the next year to a guy that's likely not going to be playing. I can understand that, and that's exactly why he's continuing to be floated out there. Bring him on back, Mets. You got roster room. Should he be interested? I think there's plenty of potential at Murphy. Should he return healthy and be sharp upon his return? Again, the guy's sweeper is disgusting after doing a little breakdown on him. But Thomas Szapucki, everyone's favorite Met, said absolutely nobody, made his Mets debut against the San Francisco Giants in June of the 2022 season, in which he got absolutely shelled. His tits were lit as soon as the game began, and hilariously enough, he was traded to that same San Francisco Giants team, along with J.D. Davis, for a man by the name of Darren Ruff. Not sure if you guys remember or heard of him. Hope not. Hope not. Billy Upper Masterclass is what we like to call that bad boy. It's just hilarious. It's just hilarious to me. Pat Murphy getting used and abused, dude. He's just getting tossed around left and right. Not the ideal situation. My ex-girlfriend currently getting used and abused. No. David, even if that's true, there are certain things that are supposed to be kept in-house. We should not be saying these things in the chat. But I digress. I mean, hey, you know the same. She a hoe. I don't know. How would you go about getting Robert? So, Luis Robert, I'm going to discuss at greater length and try exactly how to acquire him. But in a nutshell, it's not going to be easy. And you're going to have to give up key assets to land him. But he is one of those unique situations, similar to Juan Soto, even though Soto's a rental. But what do these guys have in common? They are ridiculous talents that, should they be available, you at minimum give a call and see what the asking price is and see how far you can get. Yes, of course, the Mets don't want to part ways with farm talent. No one does. But the Mets are currently in a position with their farm where they are more willing to be able to part ways with some of these guys, knowing that their farm is deep. They have a top 10 farm currently. The Mets are in a far better spot than they were just a couple years ago before Steve Cohen became owner, when looking at their prospect depth, because they decided to trade everyone and their mother thanks to the incompetence from the Wilpons and, of course, Burry Van Wagenen being the puppet that he is. But now getting back into Luis Robert, yes, it'll cost an arm and a leg to land him. And quite frankly, as long as you're not trading Francisco Alvarez, I don't know how much I care about trading those prospects. I really don't. He has control. He's a 5-tool player. He has yet to hit his peak in his career. Shit, I'd give my arm and leg if that means you get him. If that helps our chances at winning a World Series. I'll do my part, Mets. Can you do yours, David? I don't know. That's a great question. So we'll have to see. Solve DH Ohtani the MVP. That is all. We love Shohei Ohtani, who was just named for the second time of his career, back-to-back years, unanimous AL MVP. Did not have his little interview, which leads the suspense to continue on the Ohtani front. Of course, the Mets want Ohtani. Everyone wants Ohtani. Do I think right now the Mets are going to land Ohtani? No. But do I think the Mets are also going to surprise some people and be in the final stages? Yes, I do. And if there's one thing I will say, Steve Cohen is a madman. When he wants something, he'll do everything he can to get it. So in the case of Ohtani, unless the Mets are ran off quick because Ohtani doesn't have interest in coming to the East Coast, let alone coming to New York, which very well can be a reality. No one would be shocked. I would be the first to tell you I'm not shocked, should that be the case. But should there be a willingness, it won't be for a lack of effort on the Mets end. That is for certain. Hold on, everybody. I'm just quiet for a second because I'm double checking to make sure I don't miss any news. Guys, we have roughly 600 live concurrent viewers. Thank you all so much for being in here. Help us get 200 plus likes by the end of the live show. Greatly appreciate people on replay. Continue to smash those buttons. It means a lot. And of course, hit that subscribe button. We're also close to 25K subscribers. We're just about 1.5 away. So thank you all so much in advance for the endless support. And hope you guys also, I want to take a moment to thank you all for your support with the new debut show of Bridging the Gap podcast that came out yesterday. Now, I saw some of you Mets fans out there that didn't love the idea of having a weekly show where I talk both Mets and Yankees. However, I think it brings an awesome dynamic not only to the channel, but to this baseball community, something that's severely lacking. I think we're all fed up about certain talking heads in major New York radio, in which they know who they are, who act like they know what they're talking about on a daily basis when discussing the same stuff with the Mets and the Yanks. When they have no clue what they're talking about, they do not do their due diligence. They don't even have proper banter with each other. They just yell back and forth as if they have any clue what they're discussing. When in reality, you have myself and my boy Pat, who's a great friend of mine, is a diehard Yanks fan, knows his stuff for certain, great content creator. And we just have a really fun dynamic that I'm thoroughly surprised by and excited for the future, seeing the results we have. Around 8,000 views in our first podcast episode yesterday, and we enjoyed every single second. So thank you guys all so much for that. I hope you enjoy more coverage because, look, I know that you Mets fans might not love the idea of talking Yanks a little bit on the channel, but at the same time, the purpose is because it's regarding any topics that have to do with both teams, which is the case with Soto, which is the case with Yamamoto, which is the case with Margot. And it's fun to kind of talk shit going back and forth saying, okay, you know, you might want him, but Brian Cashman is your GM. So I don't know how concerned should I really be. And his counter is, okay, well, you're still the Mets at the end of the day. Even if you look like you have the best signings on paper, that isn't going to lead you to success. And that's a valid argument. So I just thank you again for the support regarding the show. And again, if you're not interested, that's fine. Just don't watch it. That's my simple response to that. But really, really does mean a lot. Everyone that has shown their great support regarding that. It was a lot of fun yesterday. I'm looking forward to the future in regards to that show and in regards to the channel, because we have more new things coming soon, which I'm really, really pumped up and excited by. It just, I'm having so much fun talking all shop, regardless on if I'm just talking Mets, if I'm talking about baseball as a whole. You know, love these discussions. I really, really do. Ohtani wants to keep everything private, of course, and he's going to do that to the best of his abilities until things start to get leaked out there. And speaking of Ohtani briefly, there have been rumblings that Shohei will sign prior to winter meetings, which begins December 4th. So you're telling me Ohtani might sign like as soon as next week, bro? Like, we have Thanksgiving. I get it. Shohei, you might not be used to that if that is not part of, you know, certainly your backing in your culture, because Thanksgiving is an American thing. But hey, you know, like, people are going to be busy with their families Thursday. Can we try to avoid any breaking news to that extent happening on the day or around there, please? So Ohtani, when is he going to land somewhere? Could be sooner than later. Where is he going to land? Not an effing clue, truly, aside from the obvious stereotype pick that it's going to be the LA Dodgers, but that has yet to be seen as well. So that's kind of my thoughts on that, but it's interesting to see these reports roll out, and how genuine are they? You know, it's always those things. People, anything Ohtani related, people chomp at the bit for. They know there's a lot of traction. You know, it's like, you know, Mets for clicks. It's also Ohtani for clicks. As someone who has spoken plenty about Ohtani, I can speak on that very well. Even if there's not drastically anything new with Ohtani, I know that I should still be going out of my way to have this discussion, not only because it's Shohei Ohtani, the best player in all baseball, and across, you can make the argument he's one of the most athletic humans on the planet for what he does, but also the fact that because of how talented he is and knowing how much of a market he hits, that viewership is always going to be well for the most part when discussing him. So that is something to keep in mind when evaluating the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes. How much are people discussing or reporting on things that are genuine, or are trying to pull things out of their ass and are saying more regurgitated things because there's nothing really new to add. You know, there's fair, and I've said things over and over again. I'll be the first to tell you, because you have to be repetitive in this market. There's also times where, you know, you could get a little long-winded, and for those times, I apologize. John, thank you for $2 haul. John says Blevins with a good contract idea for Woodruff. I'd imagine that Jerry said that on SNY or tweeted out. I'm actually going to double check right now. Let's see here. Shout out to Jerry too. Yeah, Jerry didn't tweet it, so I'd imagine he probably said it on SNY. So I'll have to go back and watch. Woodruff will be nice, maybe 2 years, 33 million or something with an option. I think that's very much in the cards for sure. And if we're talking short-term guaranteed money, if that's something where that's going to be a make or break for Woodruff and his decision making, I mean, must I say more? Need I say more? Rather, I think we got that figured out here. Shraken, thank you so much for $10 Hollis says, what do you think of the bullpen? I want that relief pitcher from Cuba, Rodriguez, and Japanese relief pitchers. P.S. I've been right in the past. Vientos will have good year at 25 homers if he's played every day. I guess we'll see Shraken if he is committed. The Mets commit to him as an everyday player, which would be that DH spot. Which, truthfully, I don't hate the idea of, because I'm curious to see what can happen if the Mets give like a full commitment to a kid every single day and give him continued reps, knowing that he doesn't have pressure that, oh, I'm going to lose my job on a day-to-day basis. I don't hate that idea, but if we're trying to stay true and making this team as good as possible for next year, then naturally there are DH options out there that I find far more appealing, and it starts with Shohei Ohtani. Hold on. Yariel Rodriguez, I'm a big fan of. He definitely is a guy that will fit the bill for the Mets should they acquire him. Can be used as a multi-inning reliever, can be even stretched as a starter if you need him to. We've done a thorough breakdown on him on the channel. Highly implore you all to check it out if you haven't already. Japanese relief pitchers, there are some out there, but we're focused more on the starter market, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto being the big name, of course, and Shota Imanaga, which is a sleeper name of a starter that will sign with a club on a much more team-friendly deal this offseason than what Yoshinobu Yamamoto is inevitably getting with, hopefully, the Mets. 13 roster spots, says some guy. Exactly. A player option if he hits a certain number of starts in year 2. Team option he doesn't. I like that, John. I like the creativity, and that makes plenty of sense. And I know that type of thinking is exactly how David Stearns operates. So I'm very interested to see Woodruff and his future. But do not get me wrong. We are going to talk at great length about Woodruff. Would not be shocked at all if we talk about him as soon as tomorrow, because he's just someone that I understand is not going to impact 2024. But my goodness, would you be foolish to not, at minimum, give him a call and consider and see where he's at with his rehab, how are his medicals looking, all those things. And Stearns does have an upper hand in that regard too, because he's known the guy his entire career. He's aware what the medicals have been in years past. Yes, he doesn't know to a full degree the current situation. However, he does know quite a bit. And if there's one thing we know about David Stearns, he knows everyone in that Milwaukee Brewers organization. So it would be foolish to suggest that he isn't in on the know with anything and everything Brandon Woodruff. That's like the DeGrom contract. Yeah, the DeGrom contract is really interesting. Jake's is so interesting, too, that he has potential to make more money as it goes on, even after TJ, which is just nuts. Like, there's an option for a 6th year for DeGrom on his contract, which is crazy. Cease had a 4-year Ray. I would not put much stock in Dylan Cease's struggles this season, especially when looking at his infield behind him and him being a Chicago White Sox. So much potential there with Dylan Cease. He's actually one of my favorite pitchers in the game today that is not a New York Met. So if that is a hint on the type of guys I hope the Mets go after this trade deadline, not trade deadline, but offseason, I don't know what is. Oh, so close to 200 likes. Thank you guys for continuing to smash those buttons. We are going to be getting out here, guys, in just the next, 5 to 10 minutes. But before I do, I want to continue to answer your comments, questions, and concerns as we're breaking down all the latest in Mets land. A big, big night in Mets land, too. I'd like to make that abundantly clear with all these tenders going on and non-tenders. Okay, so Jerry, thank you so much for the tag. John says, a player option if he hits a certain number of starts in year 2. A team option if he doesn't. Really, really like that. That's pretty creative. Yep. And Joe, I agree. They should put you on TV or something. That's a funny reply by Joe. And I'm 100% going to be referencing this idea when I discuss Woodruff at greater length. So, notable non-tenders per John Heyman, and just notable in general, are the following. Kyle Lewis, in which he struggled to stay healthy in his career, but when healthy, he's a solid outfielder. Nick Senzel, longtime Cincinnati Red, top coveted prospect. This was never able to put together in the hopes that the Reds fans were looking for. Austin Meadows, who I know has struggled a lot with his mental health, if I'm not mistaken, since being dealt to the Detroit Tigers, one of the most lopsided trades in recent history, in favor of the Tampa Bay Rays, and not in favor of the Detroit Tigers, as Isaac Paredes got dealt and became a 20 plus bomb, 800 plus OPS machine, and hit a nuke against Justin Verlander this year too, which still pisses me off. We got Josh Stalman. We got Jacob Stallings, the schmuck who had a walk-off grand slam with an expected batting average of .030 off of Edwin Diaz. The one damn night my ass decided to do a 4.5-hour drive with my buddy to sit first row Mets dugout, July of 2021. The only time I've been in PNC Park, and because of that reason, I struggle to want to go back. Ridiculous. Jacob Stallings, a notable non-tender. Rowdy Tellez, we discussed. Brandon Woodruff, the elephant in the room. Luis Guillorme, Daniel Vogelbach. Lou Trevino is a name that has been tagged the Mets in the past. Was with the A's, was within the Yanks organization as part of the Frankie Montas deal, in which, holy shit, that talking about another lopsided trade. My goodness. Tim Hill, Austin Nola is finally being parted with by the Padres. It only took them like how many years to figure that one out. Thomas Sapucki, Andrew Kaiser, Dakota Hudson from the Cardinals, who they tried trading but weren't able to. Matt Bush, Adam Simber, most notably during his time with the Toronto Blue Jays, and everyone's favorite former New York Met, Dominic Smith. I don't know why he threw Dom Smith in there as a notable tender. With all due respect, Dom isn't a notable tender. But at the same time, is Guillorme more notable than Dom? So, in fairness, I can understand it. Bring back Sapucki, no peace, or something like that. 1200, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate that. And for those that don't know, 1200 has went the past year plus donating every single time he does, saying how, shame on us for parting ways with Sapucki. Everyone isn't as good as Sapucki. Sapucki can be better than this. Hilarious stuff. Thank you so much for the donation, brother. Happy to have you in here. Alexis, thank you so much for the donation. Or Alexi, whichever one it is. Hi, Worry. Is this the year Mets get Chafin? I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. Love Andrew Chafin, but I've softened a bit on the notion of the Mets acquiring him. After swinging and missing out of at least 4 to 5 opportunities over the past 3 years to land him, I think we're done with the Andrew Chafin talk. As I say that, watch this be the offseason. They finally land the schmuck, because why not? Chafin and Chapman for bullpen. Chapman, God no. Chafin, I wouldn't hate it, but I don't think it's going to happen. Strachan, you're a beauty. Thank you for chiming in. Literally, maybe this is how the Mets will finally land Andrew Chafin. Maybe I just shouldn't make my annual video about him, as I've been doing every year. I feel like this guy, I want him so bad. And he's like, nah. And the Mets are like, nah. I'm like, all right, well then F off then. I don't know what else to say. It's just annoying. That's one of those guys that ticks me off that nothing happened. And when there were opportunities for it to happen, when the Mets could have traded for him, showed interest and just didn't get it done, or, he signed with Detroit, opts out of his contract, the Mets have an opportunity there, he goes to the D-backs, the D-backs trade him during the season this year. I don't even know where he got traded to. It's hilarious. The D-backs traded him away. I actually think he got dealt to Milwaukee, as a matter of fact. Could be wrong. I think Andrew Chafin got traded to Milwaukee this past season. And, yeah, it's funny. They trade him away, and they go on to go all the way to the World Series. Yeah, Chafin has a great sense of humor, like many relievers, right? The best personalities in baseball, more often than not, you're going to find from relief pitchers. Because they know their role, they understand it well, and they go about themselves in a pretty funny way. Trevor May, love Trev. Adam Ottavino, love him, and I love their personalities, right? Just to name a few. Andrew Chafin wears a shirt every single week that says failed starter. You'll love that. I love those vibes. But at the same time, it's more than just vibes. You got to be productive, and I can understand why the Mets may not want to go all in for him again. Mistake if they let Guillorme go. Best hands in baseball. Not if they have, my friend. Guillorme is now a free agent. Is it possible that he returns to the organization? Of course it is. But as of now, his time in Queens has come to an end. And for that reason, I wish Luis Guillorme all the best in his future endeavors. But those endeavors, as I said in my video, the top 5 Mets who will not return will likely not be in Queens. Guillorme, Vogelbach, nailed those, figured those, really did. DJ Stewart, again, was that wild card, but I'm happy to be wrong in that situation, because DJ's someone that I really, really grown to like a lot this past year, as was the case with most Mets fans. He quickly became a fan favorite. I mean, the guy just decided to be Barry Bonds for like 2 weeks. like out of nowhere. Like, it was hilarious. And of course, games that didn't matter, but he took advantage. And if there's something to be said about when DJ Stewart was first called up, I was like, why are we at a point this year where we know we're not contending? We're in a retool right now. We part ways with our guys at the trade deadline. Yet now we're calling up a veteran, a guy that struggled to really be an MLB caliber player consistently. Why are we doing this over, say, some other internal options in the organization that can make sense? Like, why? Why make this decision, right? But DJ did exactly what you're supposed to as a guy in that situation, and that's take full advantage of it. And that's exactly what he did. I mean, for DJ Stewart to go out and hit 11 home runs in the sample size that he did and have some highlight reel catches in right field is nothing short of impressive, and that alone deserves him a new contract and deserves him to stay on this Mets team until proven otherwise, meaning that say he loses out on trying to be an everyday player, say he gets cut right before the season begins, say he gets dealt, whatever it may be. But for the time being, he's a Met, and that's pretty cool. You still want Buxton who can't stay healthy? No. No. Could you make the argument that maybe would he have stayed healthy if he got out of Minnesota? I don't know. Byron Buxton, in my opinion, when healthy, is one of the most talented players in baseball. But looking back, same way that I was very heavy advocate for Chris Bryant, this is why I'm a fan and I'm not a GM, right? And because GMs make bonehead decisions, so just imagine what a schmuck like me would make. Irrational decisions is what it would be. No good would come of it. You guys would love it in spurts. Be like, oh my God, he just spent $1 million in the offseason, or he just had a phenomenal trade deadline. And then when things start to struggle, I'm like, all right, you're out of here. Trade him, trade this. I think I would be too Steinbrenner-esque. Not the current Steinbrenner, his daddy. That's where I feel like I would see myself if I was running the show. I would probably be a little bit too irrational at times because my fandom would come in too strong. And I think that's fair for the case with a lot of us as fans, right? If you were given an opportunity to run the New York Mets, we can all act like we can do it. We can talk the talk, but none of us can walk the walk. That's why it takes a guy of David Stern's accolades and success at this point in his career to be in the position that he's in. What I think is going to happen to Buck is he take Padres' job. I haven't heard any connection between Buck and Padres. No, I think Padres are inevitably hiring Phil Nevin. That's what I think is going to happen. Buck, I don't think Buck isn't going to manage a team this year. That's what I think. I think Buck will not be managing this year. There will be opportunities for him again, but assuming that he does not get any role this offseason, it might be the end of Buck Showalter as a manager in baseball. It will not be the end of him in baseball, I don't foresee. I know Buck has such a drive to win, but also his ego comes into play, right? Buck is a guy that's always been a leader. Would he be willing to be a part of a coaching staff as not that said leader? Would he be willing to potentially be an advisor in the front office and have input? You know what I mean? Like, how much does it matter to him to just win a championship versus how you win a championship? Is he willing to kind of be more of a guy maybe in the shadows, a part of a great organization that wins it all in the near future? Or is he someone that much rather get his hands dirty and fail versus fail, but while still being at the helm there, and that's something where he has the answer to. It took a lot to get Buck out of his current position as is for the Mets to land him. It took a lot of money. It took a unique situation with Steve Cohen and the excitement behind the Mets with the new owner. I don't think there's a lot of unique situations out there like that that'll be appealing enough not only for him, but for teams. I just don't think that there's that interest level. I don't think there's enough of it. Even though Buck got down to the wire in managerial discussions with the Angels before they commanded Ron Washington, who I will say, phenomenal guy, Ron Washington. I mean, that's why I want him out of Atlanta so long. Tremendous coach, tremendous baseball mind, and someone who really baffles me with just how smart he is, how witty he is, but how confident he is. He's got a swagger behind him. And Ron, I hope for his sake and hope for Halo's fans' sake, he has success there. Kevin, thank you for $10. Says, enjoyed last night, even though we had Yankees fans in the room. Great job, Ori. And that's how it's going to be. But that's the fun part. You might get pissed down, but that's the point. We want you guys to banter in the live chat with their respective fandoms the way that both Pat and I do for the show. That's like the entire premise in itself. We're going to be bantering, going back and forth. We want you guys in the chat to be doing the same. So when Yanks fans are in here, I want you to be going at them. And Yanks fans, I want you to go at the Mets fans. I want it to be a healthy back and forth dialogue. Even if people get pissed off, shake it off. Just fan them. It ain't going to be the end of the world, right? But appreciate that donation. And guys and gals, this is about going to wrap up the show. I want to thank you all so much again for watching and listening wherever you are. It really does mean a lot. Your boy's going to head out of here, though, but stay tuned. More content is on the horizon as soon as tomorrow, so make sure you're looking out over the weekend what we may have in store for you. Breaking news, rest assured we'll discuss it. Yoshinobu Yamamoto will be posted this Monday, so rest assured we'll talk about him plenty. As of now, we'll be live for a Bridging the Gap podcast Tuesday night, barring any changes because of breaking news. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for consistent Mets coverage. As always, Knicks get the big dub. To all my Knicks fans out there, you love to see that. But guys and gals, thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for watching. This is your boy Wardy signing out. Have a great night. Have a great weekend, everybody. And as always,